NPR, 17th of November 2022, TikTok raises national security issues, according to the FBI. Is it not time to outlaw TikTok across the board in the civilized world after India already denied the Chinese espionage software TikTok? The FBI director expresses national security concerns about TikTok's U.S. operations and warns that the Chinese government may use the well-known video-sharing app to sway American users or take control of their devices. Just days after Republican lawmakers filed a bill that would outlaw the app statewide, FBI Director Christopher Wray told the House Homeland Security Committee on Tuesday that the agency has several concerns regarding international threats. The Chinese government might be able to use it to control the data collection on millions of users, the recommendation algorithm, which could be used for influence operations if they so desired, or the software on millions of devices, giving it a chance to compromise personal devices, according to Wray potentially technically. The Chinese firm ByteDance owns TikTok, which reached 1 billion monthly active users in September 2021. Foreign and domestic businesses operating in China may be required by national security laws to share their data with the government upon request. This broad authority may be used by China's ruling Communist Party to gather sensitive intellectual property, confidential business information, and individual data. TikTok has long maintained that it does not adhere to Chinese government content filtering regulations and retains user data from American users in the United States. However, the business has come under more and more scrutiny in recent months. In July, it admitted that non-American workers in China had access to all user data from the United States. Using leaked conference audio, BuzzFeed News revealed in June that ByteDance staff members stationed in China frequently accessed private information, such as phone numbers and birthdays, of American TikTok users. Separately, ByteDance vehemently refuted a Forbes report from October that said it intended to utilize TikTok to monitor the personal location of some individual American people. Chinese legislation, according to Wray, essentially compels businesses to perform whatever the government wants them to in terms of providing information or operating as a tool of the Chinese government, he said during the hearing. And therefore, he said, it should be more than enough cause for alarm. Recently, the FBI has turned more of its attention to China. According to Wray's assessment in July, the greatest long-term threat to our economic and national security is China, which he also charged with meddling in recent elections. American worries over TikTok are not new. Over the years, numerous government officials have voiced similar cautions, and 2 presidential administrations have made various attempts to resolve these security worries. ByteDance was ordered to divest from TikTok back in 2020 by the Committee on Foreign Investment in the United States, CFIUS, which performs national security reviews of foreign businesses' transactions. Donald Trump, president at the time, attempted to have the app removed from the U.S. market unless ByteDance split it off, but his request was rejected in court. When President Biden took office, those initiatives were put on hold, but his administration has since resumed talks with the firm about national security. According to a September New York Times report, the CFIUS and TikTok established a preliminary agreement on protections that would satisfy the U.S. When asked at the hearing on Tuesday what steps the United States is taking, Wray responded that such a conversation belongs in a classified setting. He did mention that the CFIUS procedure involves the FBI's Foreign Investment Unit. He continued by saying that any agreements that might be reached to deal with the problem will consider our participation. In a statement sent by email to NPR on Wednesday, a TikTok representative verified that. The spokesperson also said that the proposed deal goes beyond data security to include problems like governance, content moderation, and algorithmic transparency. The FBI's suggestions are considered part of our ongoing discussions with the U.S. government, as Director Wray made clear in his remarks, the official wrote. We are optimistic that we are on a path to satisfy any reasonable U.S. national security concerns fully, the statement reads. We can't comment on the specifics of those classified negotiations, though. Some legislators are advocating for a total ban. The notion of banning TikTok seems to be gathering ground once more. The appraised privacy and security concerns for Americans, according to Senate Intelligence Committee Chairman Mark Warner, Democrat Virginia, who also praised Trump's strategy. Warner told Australia's Sydney Morning Herald, Donald Trump was right on TikTok years ago. This is not something you would ordinarily hear me say. The ability for China to have undue influence is a greater challenge and a much more urgent threat than any type of genuine, armed confrontation, says the author. if your country utilizes Huawei if your kids are on TikTok. Additionally, given that China has blocked YouTube and all other Western apps, why should TikTok operate there? A week later, in an interview with Axios, Federal Communications Commissioner Brendan Carr urged the government to outlaw TikTok. He requested that Apple and Google take it out of their app stores in June, noting its history of sneaky data methods. Republican Senators Marco Rubio and Mike Gallagher presented legislation last week that would prohibit TikTok and other social media firms that the CCP essentially controls from operating in the United States, according to their statements. In a recent op-ed for The Washington Post, they explained their goals and worries. According to the lawmakers, one reason is that the app can track users' locations and gather internet browsing information from unrelated websites. Beijing could then use this information to create profiles of millions of Americans for blackmail or espionage, as well as collect sensitive national security data from U.S. government employees, they added. Additionally, they were concerned about possible algorithmic abuses on TikTok, namely that it might be utilized to quietly indoctrinate American citizens by favoring some videos while banning others. TikTok edited the subtitles of German videos about the Chinese treatment of Uyghurs by adding asterisks to words like re-education camp and work camp. TikTok has previously banned references to contentious political issues, such as the treatment of employees in Xinjiang, China, and the Tiananmen Square uprisings of 1989, they claimed. It has momentarily barred an American kid who expressed disapproval of China's treatment of Uyghurs. The lawmakers described this as a particularly terrifying scenario given how many adults acquire news from TikTok. But is it the ideal response? TikTok is a social media platform for amusement and a vital component of the communications infrastructure, according to Ann Kokosh, a media studies professor and the director of the University of Virginia's East Asia Center. Furthermore, she claims it forms a component of a larger Chinese government campaign to increase extraterritorial control over digital platforms. She tells NPR's Morning Edition that this has been stated very clearly repeatedly, starting with the 2010 White Paper on the Chinese Internet up to the 2020 Hong Kong National Security Law, which permits control of national security interests outside China. As China continues to expand its digital domain, she does not believe that banning TikTok is the wisest course of action. Instead, comparing it to playing a game of whack-a-mole, TikTok is the most popular Chinese app used by Americans, though there are others, like WeChat. According to her, it almost seems absurd to ban just one of these numerous apps when we consider how tied platforms in industries like precision agriculture, communications, and gaming are to Chinese companies. Therefore, creating more stringent data privacy legislation in the United States is crucial for user protection. America can Chinese laws requiring data storage in the United States, away from the Communist Party's prying eyes, for Chinese apps.